Aloha guys, this is Dr. Tom coming back at you. Yes, we're having another fascinating discussion. But the good thing about today is it's the last of the module. It's Chapter 18, the Endocrine System. Now the endocrine system is the powerful glands and hormones of the body that help control the body. The endocrine system controls it, the nervous system controls it, but the nervous system ultimately controls the endocrine system also. All right, so let's get rolling. Glands release hormones, chemical messengers. Hormones regulate functions of an organism. Hormones bind to receptors. The hormones are secreted into the bloodstream, guys, and they circulate around until they get to the particular receptor site that they're designed to go to, and they bring about whatever it is, whatever changes are supposed to be made. Receptors are recognition sites in various target tissues. Endocrine means ductless glands. They don't have a tube or a duct. They release it into the bloodstream. Here's what it says. Endocrine secrete their hormones directly into the blood. Exocrine glands send chemicals via ducts to the body, like tear ducts, sweat glands, milk glands in the female, saliva are all exocrine glands. But the endocrine system, of course, deals with the endocrine glands. Sorry, guys. Okay, here they are. Number one, the master gland is the pituitary gland, right here. Then we have the thyroid gland. On top of each kidney is an adrenal gland. Remember, ad means on top of, renal means kidney, so see how clever it is? There are two of those, the pancreas, and then the gonads, the ovaries in the female, testes in the male. Now there's one more we didn't mention. It's the pineal gland. And it's deep in the brain. And it's still a mystery. There's still a little that's understood about it, and they don't really know for sure the many functions it might have that we don't know about. Okay, moving on. Endocrine glands. Thyroid gland is in the neck. There are also four little tiny parathyroid glands that are kind of mixed in with the thyroid gland. There are four of those. There's an adrenal gland on top of each kidney. The pancreas is behind the stomach, posterior to it. Pituitary gland is in the brain. It has a extremely important relationship with the hypothalamus of the brain. Ovaries in the pelvis, testes in the scrotum. Pineal gland is deep in the brain. And that's it's quite complicated, but those are the endocrine glands already. All right, let's see what we got here. In the male, we have the testes. They produce testosterone, the primary male hormone, or the major one. In the ovaries, or in the female, the gonads are the ovaries. They produce estrogen and progesterone, the two extremely important female hormones. Okay, let's see what we got. Combining forms. Adeno is the root word for gland, very important. Adeno is the root word for gland. Adrenal is for the adrenal glands. Gonado is the sex glands. You've heard them called the gonads. Okay. Pancreato is the pancreas. Parathyroid is the parathyroid gland. Now, these are pretty easy because they sound like what they're meant to, what they represent, which is good. Let's see what we got. Pituitario is the pituitary gland, which is also known as the hypophysis. But rest assured, guys, it's 99% of the time it's referred to as the pituitary. Thyro and thyroid have to do with the thyroid gland here in the throat. Okay, moving right along, making good progress, I think. Andro has to do with something to do with male. Androgenic hormones are those that bring about a male, like steroids and things, like the kind the bodybuilders use. Calcio is calcium, the mineral, important mineral in the body. Cortico is the cortex, the outer region. In this case, we're going to find out that the adrenal glands have a cortex around them and it secretes certain hormones. Crino means secrete, as in endocrine. Dipso means thirst. Why did they bring that up? Probably because it's associated with diabetes, and the pancreas is associated with that. Estro, female, like estrogen. It's the easy way to remember it. Gluco or glyco means sugar. This is very important, guys. Like glucose, blood sugar. Very important. Without blood sugar, you will die very quickly. Okay, we're still on combining forms, or I call them root words. Homeo means sameness, like in no, it's like in homosexuals. They like, okay, we won't get into that. That's a good example, though. Hormona means hormone. Kali means potassium, an electrolyte, an element, yeah. Potassium, guys, of course, is spelled with a P, but it's abbreviated with a K because it's on the Latin word. It's one of those that's been known since ancient times. Lacto means milk. I think most of you probably know that already. That's good. Mixo means mucus. Mucus is gross, guys, but it's real important. We have mucous membranes all through the body. That mucus is secreted for real important reasons. Natro is sodium. Now, sodium is abbreviated Na. It's the same situation as potassium. Potassium is abbreviated just with a capital K. Why? Both of them were known since ancient times and have Latin names. Physio means growing. Okay, I can't think of an example right offhand. Somato means body. We've mentioned that one several times. Stereosolid structure. Yeah, but I can't think of an example to give you for that. Toko, childbirth. If they say so, I can't think right offhand. But toxico position. I think they mean poison here, guys. Uro is the root word for urine. Now, when we go into urinary system, we'll be talking about that in great detail. But for right now, that's important. Uro is urine. Okay, those are all combining forms. Now we're going into suffixes. Agon, assemble, gather together. Okay. Yeah, I can't think of an example at the moment. I'm sorry. Emia is suffix for blood. That's real important. Leukemia, septicemia, blood poisoning, etc. In or in is a substance. Atropine is a drug that comes to mind. Okay. Tropin stimulated the function of something that causes growth or development. Urea is a suffix that has something to do with urine. Like polyuria means you're having to urinate very frequently. So this is a real important one. Emia is too, guys. Very important one. Why? Because you see them a lot. They're used a great deal. Okay, prefix. U means good or normal. Eupnea means normal, relaxed breathing like we're doing right now. Eupnea. So that's important. Hyper means excessive, like hypertension. Hyperthermia. Hypo means deficient or below, like hypothermia. Oxy, rapid, sharp, acid. Yeah, I guess. I would have thought oxygen, but okay. Pan means all. Now, right now we're in a pandemic, the COVID virus. Pan means all. It's all over the world. A pandemic is much more extensive than an epidemic. Poly means much or increased. I used the example a moment ago, polyuria. If a person, like for example, that's one of the key symptoms of diabetes type 2, mellitus. Polyuria, they're having to pee a lot. Tetra means 4. Tetra means 4. Tri means 3. How do you remember that? Easy, man. A tricycle has 3 wheels. Tetra's a little bit more difficult. But tri's, it's a piece of cake, yes? Okay. Now, we mentioned a moment ago that the adrenal glands have an intermedullary portion and a cortex around the outside. And that's what the adrenal cortex is. And then they have adrenal medulla, the soft inside. Each one produces different hormones. Ovaries are located in the lower abdomen of the female. The pancreas is posterior to the stomach. Looks like a fish. Okay, we briefly mentioned that we have the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland, guys, regulates metabolism, energy rate, energy production, that kind of thing. And then the parathyroid glands are 4 little tiny bits of distinct tissue embedded in the thyroid that have another function also. The pituitary gland is the master gland. It's associated with the hypothalamus. Another word is hypophysis, but you very rarely hear that. Located at the base of the brain in a little cavity or crater called the sella turcica. Testes, the male glands enclosed in the scrotal sac. Why? Because they have to stay slightly cooler than the body. That's why they hang down. Thyroid gland located in the neck on either side of the trachea. Okay. Here's a drawing of it. Here's a trachea in blue. Here's the thyroid gland. So it's shaped like a butterfly. Has an isthmus. And it largely, guys, regulates metabolism. Okay, adrenaline. You've probably all heard of that. But in science and medicine, it's more commonly called epinephrine. Why? I don't know. It's been that way a long time. Adrenaline, secreted by the adrenal medulla. ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, is secreted by the anterior pituitary. We'll find, guys, that, and of course, you're going to go over this in much more detail in anatomy. The pituitary gland secretes a number of hormones that kick up and get started these other glands. That's why it's called the master gland. This is one of them. And this affects the adrenal cortex. And in fact, one of the things that's secreted by one of the hormones secreted by the adrenal cortex is aldosterone. Aldosterone helps to maintain salt and sodium in the body. Androgen has to do with male hormone. It comes from the testes, but also the adrenal cortex produces a small amount of it too. Here's the adrenal glands. Here are the kidneys. Here are the adrenal glands in yellow. Here's the little soft internal medullary portion. Here's the cortex. Each secretes different hormones. Adrenaline and noradrenaline, which we haven't mentioned, I don't think yet, come from the adrenal medulla. Aldosterone and some others come from the cortex. Okay, there's an anterior lobe of the pituitary and there's a posterior lobe of the pituitary. And there are only two hormones secreted by the posterior lobe. One of those is antidiuretic hormone, or ADH. Occasionally you'll see it called vasopressin. Secreted by the posterior lobe of the pituitary. It helps the kidneys maintain water. If you have a shortage of this for some reason, you have a disease state where you don't have enough, you'll be urinating, you have polyuria going crazy. Okay, another thing the thyroid gland does, and the parathyroids, is they regulate calcium balance in the blood. Calcitonin is secreted by the thyroid gland. Cortisol is a steroid hormone secreted by the adrenal cortex. So we've talked about aldosterone coming from the cortex and cortisol. Epinephrine comes from the adrenal medulla. The other name for epinephrine is adrenaline, the better known name, actually. Estradiol is estrogen, female hormone secreted by the ovaries. Estrogen, female hormone secreted by the ovaries and the adrenal cortex to a lesser extent. Okay, the anterior pituitary also produces a hormone called follicle stimulating hormone, or FSH, which has to do with reproductive function. Glucagon, secreted by the alpha islet cells of the pancreas, increases blood sugar. Blood sugar, guys, has to stay in a certain range. And glucagon is a hormone that breaks down a stored form of blood sugar. I just want to hit you with that for now. Okay, another hormone secreted by the anterior pituitary is growth hormone, somatotropin. If you, for some reason, have a deficiency of this when you're a child, you can develop dwarfism. And if you have too much of it, like you have a tumor on it, benign tumor that causes the excess secretion of growth hormone, you can grow to be a giant. Insulin secreted by the beta islets, that's how that's pronounced. I almost said islet. Oh, how embarrassing. Cells of the pancreas. Insulin is what helps move blood sugar, glucose from the bloodstream into the cells. Coming up, about to run out of time. Luteinizing hormone LH is another one that has to do with pregnancy and developing the female situation to get pregnant. It's also from the anterior lobe of the pituitary. Norepinephrine is similar to epinephrine. It's produced by the adrenal medulla. Oxytocin is the other hormone secreted by the posterior lobe of the pituitary, along with antidiuretic hormone. Okay, we're about halfway through this, guys. We're running out of time, so I'm going to stop there. We'll see you in the next film. We'll finish up. This is Dr. Tom signing off.